Good evening and welcome to King Saul Presents A Black Perspective, and I'm your host, Cynthia Strong. This evening, we will be discussing the 2012 presidential election, and joining me in the studio, we have Pastor Herold Aubourg and Curtis Jones, Chief Development Officer of Reach Investment Group, a renewable energy company. Welcome to the show, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Currently, there have been 3 debates, 2 of which were presidential debates. And so we'll start with the first presidential debate. Gentlemen, tell me, what happened to President Barack Obama during the first debate? Did his campaign manager, Stephanie Cutter or Robert Gibbs, ill-prepare him for the debate? What went so terribly wrong? Starting with Curtis.
Well, I think there's been a lot of discussion on this issue about, why he didn't perform at the level that we normally see him with the energy and the vibrance that the president has come out before. There has been, I guess, really no true analysis of why he changed. I know he indicated that he did not perform at the level that he should have, that most people are used to. So the real determination, I don't know. I do think his effort, although some people call it lackluster, I believe that the facts that he presented were pretty clear. I think that the format that they've described in that debate really wasn't his forte. And I think that as a result, in the second debate, which we'll talk about further, he was much more at ease. So I think those were some of the factors. I don't know, it could have been his anniversary that made a difference too, just paying attention to other things. There was a lot going on in the world, so to change your mind from all of the turmoil that is in the world and just to know that he had to compete in that debate, I don't know what he was dealing with in his mind and what had to be accomplished, again, around the world with all of the responsibilities of a president.
Thank you, Curtis. Pastor
Well,
Herold.
I watched the debate, and knowing Barack Obama, not everyone gave him a chance, even ever since he became president. No one ever said Obama is a smart man. No one ever gave him a chance. I believe that, it was strategically done because Romney, even from the primary till the debate, he's been talking. He's been saying things. I think Obama didn't say nothing, so let him have his way. Then therefore now everything that he had to say, he just spill his guts out. And then now we know what he really stands. Then therefore he went home and fact-checked for the next debate. And when he came back, if you follow Romney, everything he said in the first debate, that's what he said in the second debate. And then and President Obama was able to corner him every step of the way. And I believe that, the third debate is going to be the same kind of thing. And Romney cannot even say anything more than what he said in the first one, because everybody knows him as a flip-flopper. And then therefore, Obama got him right where he wants him. It's going to be a 2-to-1 thing.
I agree with what you're saying, Pastor Aubourg, in that Mitt Romney did have the same format, and when he went up against President Obama, he couldn't retort
That's right.
the things that he was
That's
saying.
right. That's right.
And the president was very prepared. He knew exactly where Mitt Romney was going, and so he attacked him
That's right.
on all the issues.
I think also that if you look at the content that the president spoke about, that content was pretty precise and factual, because when the pundits, as it would be called, looked at the information, you did not hear a lot about the content of the president. You heard about the demeanor of Romney. And I know that in that debate forum, it gave him a chance to interact in a different way and to see that nature that was a switch. As he mentioned in a concern later, that he didn't know Romney that came out that evening. And what people don't really discuss is when you're locked in a room 5 days learning to become the person that you want to show on the screen, it's called acting. And what we saw was a great act. And what we saw in the second debate was when the man had to stand up on his own 2 feet and have to describe what was going on in his life. So I think there is a distinction between what we call this debate prep, and they teach you everything, where to stand, how to talk, what to use, how to move your hands, how to, what not to do. And I think that is what we ended up seeing in the first debate, and that's partly the difference of what people are looking at. I think also that our society is getting so used to reality TV, where we want to see blood on the screen. We want to see people smacking and beating and disrespecting people like we're seeing in many of the shows that are on the TV. And I think people are so used to that model that to have a president with dignity who wouldn't humble himself to get into a negative type of atmosphere, I think is an important piece of the kind of president that I would expect. If you're dealing with dignitaries and presidents from other countries, you have to be able to humble yourself to know that you have an agenda, and the question is what do you choose to achieve as a result of your agenda? And it isn't always to be the person on top. There's sometimes that you, as President Obama talks about, lead from behind and humble yourself with others so that you can lead.
I agree with what you're saying. And when the moderators were debriefing, they talked about the same thing, that Mitt Romney won on what? Style and so on and so forth, because most of the time he lied as it related to the issues.
And also too, you have to understand, Obama is a human being. He has his own mind, and he's a very smart man. And the thing is, when you look at everybody on TV, they think Obama is a puppet. You can say this, you cannot say that. This man is a very smart man. He went to Harvard. He have all these. He's a writer, and he's a very smart man. And if you follow Obama, like he said, in the midst of the fire, he was able to cancel all the voices and made his own decision. When he went to Iraq, when he signed the health care bill, when he gave the stimulus, what everybody was saying, no, don't do this, don't do that, he stood by himself. But the thing is, and while everybody was saying that, he know what he's doing. Because there is an old proverb, he says, if you want to get the cheese out of the mouth of the bird, you have to make it talk. You have to make him talk, make the bird talk. So that's what he did to Romney for the first one. The cheese was there. He had to make him talk, let him spill his guts out. Now he has a format to go by. I'll bet you the next one, he has some more arsenal. He didn't even pull out yet out of his bag for Romney. You're going to watch.
Well, we can speculate as much as we like, but according to an interview President Obama had with Diane Sawyer, he said he had a bad night. Well, I still want to know why President Obama failed to debate Governor Romney on the issues, because Governor Romney was clearly fabricating the truth and flip-flopping on the issues. So, for example, Governor Romney said that if you have a pre-existing condition, you will be covered by your insurance company. Well, we know that this is not the case.
That's right.
And under Governor Romney's plan, you will be covered if you already have insurance and you have been paying into it for years. So that was a blatant lie.
See, I think part of this whole debate and part of this discussion is that when we see the debates, as if you've seen in the second debate, the fact checkers, there's no one to fact check until afterwards. And then once it's fact checked, it's based on party support. So if you're Republican, the Republicans check it and put their facts out and they skew it one way. If it's Democrat, they put it out, they might skew it a different way. So it really is about what is true fact and what is the ethics of the individuals coming forth. And I think that what people are finding with Romney now is his ethical values of what he will say. And the challenge being is what will a man do to win the White House? How much do you sell away? What no one's asked him is, what do you have to give the Tea Party? in order to be elected? What do you have to give the Koch brothers or Crossroads or any of these groups that are supporting you? Because if I'm giving you $400 million, what is it you give me back? So there's a lot of discussion that needs to be asked in terms of that value. But in going back to your original question, I believe that there is times that you have a bad day. I mean, you know, it's part of it. Again, always being on top, always being ready is a challenge. And again, what we don't know is what's really behind that bad day and what it means. When someone says, I had a bad day. It could have been any kind of news, but you're not sharing it with the public because it then becomes another news article that you're addressing and you have to justify, which sometimes becomes difficult.
Okay. Now,
it's not an excuse, though.
I agree. You're right. Now, for those who watched the vice presidential debate, what was your take on that? Did Biden pump up the base? In other words, did the pendulum swing from the right to the left at all, given what happened during the first debate?
Well, I think he did very well, and then I think he pumped up the base also. And also, too, you know what? I believe that Biden is saying a lot of stuff that the President Obama cannot say because, like I said, everybody take him as a puppet. If he stood the wrong way, everybody has something to say. If he smiled the wrong way, somebody has something to say. If he act any kind of way, everybody is on him. Like, they make him like a puppet. He's not. But the thing is, Biden come out. He's just like for a good example. He's just like suppressing the vote. Biden came out and said with his mouth, he said, you know what? We don't want to go back in the 1960s anymore. Saying that, we don't want to go back to this time anymore. But the thing is, Obama could have said the same thing. But the thing is, Biden said it. You see what I'm saying? So therefore, Biden is a very raw. I can't wait when he's running for president. You're going to see something. So he's the kind of person that, he's saying what the president is not saying. I think he did a very good job doing the vice president debate, and he explained point by point, precept by precept, everything that Romney was talking about, and that's why he won. And he wasn't scared of Ryan either, So he's the man he is at the right place and at the right time.
Speaking of Biden, do you think he will run for the presidency in 2016?
I think he will. I think Hillary will too.
I would disagree on that. I think that Biden in his time, he served over 40 years in political office and he's done a yeoman's job. I think that the power of the presidency is unique. He's already run for presidency. And that he is a great vice president for the nation, and I don't see him competing at that next level. There's a lot of discussion around Hillary Clinton possibly running for that position as president, to be the first woman president, which would be quite unique for the United States. So there's a lot of debate as to who that will be. So I would disagree that he would move there. He may, and we'll both see when 2016 comes. But if I flip back to the discussion about the debate, I think that Biden did a great job. I think that Ryan represented to the level that he is capable of, and that what you ended up seeing was a man amongst boys, and that you realize what some of the laughter in Biden's spirit was about the responses, because it was rhetorical, same responses. It was the sound bites that we had heard on the trail and on the campaign, but real factual information, again, fact-checked, didn't show the leadership that I would think we need in the vice president. We will be in all kinds of nations in different parts of the world, and it is critical that we have that opportunity to see real leadership that I think was somewhat lost in Congressman Ryan's opinions.
And also, I think also too, going back to his Biden running for president in 2016, is timing. Because you know what, if you look at Hillary missed her timing when Bush was running for the second time. And I believe that, timing is everything in this thing. When you miss, when you miss your timing, then therefore you can lose your.
Well, we're having such an excellent debate, but nevertheless, we're taking a break. And when we return, we will continue our discussion. Right now, we have a local recording artist in the studio. His name is Matthew Alexis. He's on Pastor Herold Aubourg's label, which is I Am Productions. First, he's going to sing I Need You by Smokey Norfolk. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Matthew Alexis. Welcome back to King Saul Presents The Black Perspective, and I'm your host, Cynthia Strong. Again, we're discussing the 2012 presidential election. Gentlemen, so now, for those of you that watched the second presidential debate, how would you rate President Obama's performance, and how would you rate Governor Romney's performance?
If I jump in on that, I think that the president was in his element, first of all. He is, as you know, from his work in community organizing as well as his professionalism, he is able to relate to people. And I think that's what you were able to see, his personality come out and just the energy that he needed that we missed in the first debate, as we had talked about what some people say lackluster in the first debate, that I believe that during the second debate he had gotten his mojo back, as you could say, and that he felt more comfortable in that environment where he could be himself. And I think less scripted, but having enough factual information as the president. He knows the facts, he knows what he's done as the president, and he would be able to speak truth to power versus allowing the debate to be so scripted that he had to prepare. And I think in the first debate you saw him taking a lot of notes, and I think this debate gave him a place where he was comfortable. I think Romney, in that same vein, because of that scripted environment, and they had talked in the different shows that I had watched, CNN and MSNBC and the different shows that were on, about how they were teaching Romney where to walk and how to bend in and when to move his hands and all of that stuff that showed up when the debate got heated, that he was no longer in his element, and he actually reverted to his true personality and the arrogance that a lot of people say they felt in his presentation, and again, statements to the president and to Candy Crowley, who was the announcer or the monitor.
Thank you, Curtis. Pastor Aubourg.
Like I was saying before, it's now you see Obama in his element, and everybody, like I said, the pundit thinks he is again a puppet, but the thing is, he's a smart man. One African word in Swahili called mzee. Mzee means you're a wise man. And Obama is a very wise person. He knows how to present the fact without getting angry. And that's why I said to you that, I don't think he had a bad day. He just had, strategically, that was done. Because you have three. He let him say whatever he wants to say. He let him have whatever. Now he went home, fact-checked, and then 1, 2, 3, and then hit him in everywhere. Everywhere he was. And at the end of the debate, you know what? You see Romney just like a dead duck, just walk out and didn't say hi to everybody and just walked out because of the fact that, he spilled his guts out. And at the end, Obama was able to go home and say, this is what he said, this is what he said. And he has more. Wait for the third debate. And just to give you another illustration, everybody was talking about the 47%. Oh, why? They were waiting. You know what? Every pundit, every commentator, they were waiting for him to use that 47%. But the thing is, you know what? You use it when he wanted to use it at the end. And then I'm telling you, when he says that, when he closed with that conclusion at the debate, and he was very effective. So therefore, you know what? We need to stop looking this man as a puppet. He's a president of the United States. He's a very smart man, and we need to give him his props.
Well, I feel like the rest of the panel, And the moderators indicated the same thing. They said Obama was in his element.
That's right.
I think as well that if you listen to the facts that came out in debate, that much of the discussion presented by Romney and much of the arguments that he presented went down to his spirit. There was one piece that caught me, and it was really surprising when we were talking about immigration, for example. And he was talking in the fact that, you know, the immigrant population, or those who have come here illegally, that the laws in Arizona and in areas that he supported. And then he said something quite unique. He said that anyone who was interested in coming to the United States that was an illegal immigrant or someone who had come in illegally could earn their way in by going to war. That was his little statement there. And I said, wow, that's pretty interesting. His children didn't go. No one in his family went, but yet that's the issue that he uses to gain your way into America, is to go to war. We now know that 1 in 3 individuals that have gone to war have head trauma and are suffering from post-traumatic stress syndrome. So where are we sending? Who are we sending if we're not educating young men and young women? And it's all younger people going to war who are unemployed or in that 47%. That's the real issue, because the children with resources are going to college. So there is an interesting discussion about Pell Grants, and a lot of that came out in the debate. But again, the audience had a different opinion of where they wanted to go, and I think they were good questions. But Romney's opinions came through pretty clear.
Well, that was a good observation, and hopefully the president will capitalize on that during the third debate. Next question. What do you think about a higher tax rate for the rich? Currently, they pay 35%, but under Clinton, they paid 39.6%. So do you think they should pay more taxes because we know that the trickle-down effect doesn't work, and that by leveling the playing field, we can close the deficit somewhat?
If I respond, I believe that everyone should pay their fair share. Yes. And in the tax situation, a lot of it is misunderstood because of the way that the economy is taxed in the different areas that you're able to use the tax write-offs, and the rich have more write-offs. So regardless of the tax burden that they share, there are enough write-offs unless we close those loopholes. I do believe that the value that is being espoused, that you should raise money and have money and be able to keep more of your money, I can agree with that. But I believe in this hard economic time that we need everyone pitching in to make a difference. When we look at the billions of dollars that went into this campaign, and then we look at schools without books, and we look at children without food and without clothing, they've spent more on this campaign. They could have, again, put a lot of schools on the road to great education. So I hear people talking about education. I hear them talking about the future. But the reality is they're paying that money to television shows and debates and to polls when that actually could have made a difference in people's lives. So the tax situation it's a complicated process. I don't think we'll solve it. I don't think that we will get past that now, where we're talking about going over the cliff in terms of our tax burden, and whether or not we increase the debt ceiling. There's a lot of factors that Bush tax doctrine is going over, ending in January. So there's a lot of different factors that will go into that debate, but 39%, I'm assuming, would seem fair, given the revenues that are being generated through the stock market, which is back. Housing starts are up. And the thing that is down is unemployment. And so we're seeing the need for that effort. And last point is that regardless of how that turns out, at the lower level, we're hit with schools needing more books, and it turns out in our neighborhoods and community that it becomes a tax whether we like it or not. It's something new added to our street, and it becomes local costs and fees that are added because communities don't have the funding to maintain the infrastructure necessary to compete. And we're seeing a lot of towns and communities crumbling behind that.
Thank you, Curtis.
I tend to
Herold?
agree with Curtis, and I believe that, you know what, the 1%ers, you know, they need to kind of bear the burden also. And I believe that it's unfair for me paying taxes, and then the guy that up there with billions and billions of dollars is paying less taxes than I'm paying. I believe that they should share the burden. And I tend to agree with Curtis. And can you believe during this election, all these billionaires are giving $100 million, $200 million, and then we have people out of work, and we have the education and all this, what he talked about, and it's. I tend to agree with him. I think we need to kind of hit the 1%ers, and they should pay their share, a little bit, you know, of their share.
Okay, let's talk about Obamacare. We know that if Romney becomes president, he will, quote unquote, appeal Obamacare on his first day in office. But during the first presidential debate, he discounted that claim, saying he'll keep some of it. So can Governor Romney be trusted, or do you think he will appeal Obamacare as he has so eloquently stated before?
Well, I believe that, you know, Curtis made a comment earlier that's very true, that, you know, this man cannot be trusted because he talks a good talk, even from the primary on, and then now he's changing. And then also, too, what Curtis shared with us tonight, he says that, you know what, Romney has the billionaire to deal with. So therefore, we know from the get-go, this guy is not gonna do what he says he's gonna do. You know, he has to deliver after the election. That's when Obama talked to him and said, you know what, it's a sketchy deal to come with $8 trillion and say, you know what, wait after the election, I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. That's why he calls it sketchy. You can tell it, you can even try to tell a kid, a 4-year-old, you know what, I'm going to do this for you. Well, wait till your mom comes. They would want to know what's going on right then and there. You got to tell me what's going on. You see what I'm saying? So I believe that, you know what, he cannot be trusted. Cannot be. Too many, he says too many things, and then later on it changes. And then it depends on, you know what, today he says, remember this. In the second debate, he says something, right? Third debate is going to change everything he said and he says something else. You watch.
In addition to that, he talked about what he would cut. So, for example, he's going to tax people across the board, whether they're poor, whether they're middle class, or whether they're rich. All of them will be taxed. So, for example, he talked about the loopholes. He's going to close the loopholes. However, we don't know which loopholes.
That's right. That's right.
Curtis?
And let me make one more point. Well, the thing is, he reminded me of Trump's, you know, Donald Trump in The Apprentice. This guy, you know what, he doesn't care. He just like, you got fired. That's it. And Romney is the kind of like boss, very bossy, with very egotistical boss kind of guy. He doesn't care who he hurt. He says, you know what, that's it, boom, and that's it. You know, go ahead.
Well, if I come back to the question of Obamacare, and it really is health care. It's health care for America, it's health care for the nation, and it takes care of the needs of those who are not able to afford medical care. What the debate is, and no one ever asked the question, if you get cancer, if you get sick, and you know you're in a hospital, 200,000 to 300,000 and more, it's bankrupting families. What this bill does is allows families not to go bankrupt. The thing that happens to minority populations is, if we look at the general growth in our population, there's understanding that the average minority family has a wealth value of $4,900 compared to an average white family, which is $97,000. There's a big difference in those numbers. The other thing that concerns me about Romney is the value system that he represents in terms of the Supreme Court decision. The Supreme Court is the highest court in the land. And what we saw there was a decision by the Supreme Court. And now Romney says is the number one thing I will do, I will cancel out Obamacare. That's my number one priority. What that says to me, it's a different value, and how do you value the Supreme Court? Our challenge as a community and those that vote is to understand that the next president gets to put 2 Supreme Court justices possibly. And if we are considered that there is no vote that will ever pass the Supreme Court for the next 26 years that represents people of color or represents our real issues, we have some real concerns. It is a value issue for me that a man has ethics to understand that you put your argument out there, your best argument to the Supreme Court, and you lost. But you represent the people. And again, with the control of the Supreme Court and that decision, not only will that Obamacare issue, he also talked about the pipeline, the Keystone Pipeline, which is, again, destroying habitats and the oil being sold to China. So he says, on one level, I'm going to be against China and I'll be tough on China, but you're selling the oil to China that's coming through our country through the Keystone Pipeline in Canada. Canada is our #1 distributor of oil at this time. So a lot of concerns there in that decision and his statements on Obamacare that loom larger than just that one consideration.
Thank you, gentlemen. Well, we're taking another break and bringing back Matthew Alexis, who will be singing It's So Hard to Say Goodbye by Boys to Men. So please welcome back to the stage Matthew Alexis. Thank you, Alexis. Welcome back to King Saul Presents The Black Perspective, and I'm your host, Cynthia Strong. Again, we're discussing the 2012 presidential election. So, gentlemen, let's talk about Roe v. Wade. What's your take on Roe v. Wade, which legalized abortion in the first trimester in 1973? Do you think it should be overturned? Why or why not?
Well, you know what? As a father, I have 5 girls, and they all graduated from college. And I usually say it from the standpoint, even as a father and as a pastor also, the problem is not moral, it's not even, it's spiritual. Just as, you know what, salvation is personal. When you stand on Judgment Day, I'm not going to stand with Republican or Democrat. I'm going to stand by myself and in front of God judging me. So therefore, whatever I did, then therefore He will judge me on that. It's just like Roe versus Wade. We cannot tell somebody in any kind of situation if they have a child. I can counsel somebody. At the end of the day, the person has to make his own decision about that. I cannot force myself and say, you know, this is what you have to do. If they're going to have the child, I'm going to keep, and if they're going to have the child, I'll take the child from them and give them the same education I gave my daughter, raise the child myself. Then therefore, it would be right to do something like that. But the thing is, you cannot do that. And like my brother said, you have the Supreme Court that, you know what, you cannot force that on women. And also, too, I remember during the second debate, not only Romney talked about binders for women, he talked about, even when they were discussing about the shut off the guns on the street, he was talking about parents. He said, what would you do to alleviate that? He said that, you know what, the woman should get married. I don't think anybody didn't even hear that. But then I called it. I said, now he's talking about women contraceptive and all that kind of, now you want every woman to get married. You see what I'm saying? So we cannot push this. I like the response Biden gave. He says, you know what, I'm a Catholic, I'm a Christian, but the thing is, as a person, you know what, I can push myself. Even King Hezekiah said the same thing in the Bible. He said, you know what, God, I told the people of Israel what you have told me to tell them. But the thing is, I, as a king, I have served you. Whenever I have a problem, I went to you. That's why when the prophet was walking away from King Hezekiah, he came back and gave him 15 more years. So therefore, we cannot push these things on people. It's a personal decision that every woman has to do. That's what it is.
With respect to Romney, he didn't have a response. Whenever he was asked a question, he didn't have a response, and he had to be spontaneous.
Even
he
with
couldn't use the scripted answers, or if he did, it was apparent
but the thing
that
is,
he was.
They are divided on that. Ryan and Romney is divided. Ryan said, you know what, with rape, that, you know what, except with rape, he had an exception in his in his statement, but the thing in his stand. But the thing is with Romney, Romney doesn't even have a he doesn't have no exception at all. They disagree on this point. So I believe that, you know what, there are certain things that, you know what, is personal. This right here is personal. It's personal.
Romney believes that if a woman is raped or if she's impregnated, she should have the child regardless of the circumstances.
That's what he believes.
Thank you, Pastor Howard. Curtis?
Well, if I come back to the original law of Roe v. Wade, I think that we've had a lot of discussion every year. This has come up in every presidential election going back as long as I can remember. And the vote has been cast. Again, this is a Supreme Court decision, the law of the land. And we continue to debate the Supreme Court in its decision making. Now we're looking at, again, how we deal with racial minorities getting preference in education, or what that means of how to level the playing field. So the concern that we have, that I have around Roe v. Wade, or just in general, abortion, is a real challenge for me because of my beliefs, religious beliefs. And again, I believe that life is so important that you never know what that child's role in life would be, that it is a tough decision for mothers. My concern is that in our system, and it was after reading a lot about Planned Parenthood, there's a concern on several levels. I believe in contraception. I believe in the education of people around safe sex. We've already talked about AIDS. We've talked about all of the things and why safe sex is an important issue for the world. But my concern is where are the clinics? Again, I was on researching and again had a discussion with friends recently about an article that came out in New York where they put contraception or birth control or different kinds of contraceptives in the high school. And that's, again, we know where that's taking place, but it isn't in every high school. This was in, I think, in New York. So it is the question of where that is, where these contraceptives are, where those things are coming out to the community. Obviously, there is a challenge that everyone faces in terms of making decisions about their health, and I believe women should have that right to make decisions about their health in terms of whether they choose to keep the child or not. I would hope that they would make the positive decision to bring that child into the world because we have such great children, and those mothers that have made that decision later find out that they have some beautiful children and, again, great people.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And also,
Governor Romney stated that we lost so many jobs. Doesn't he know that when President Obama went into office, he had inherited a mess and that we were losing hundreds of thousands of jobs a month due to the 2008 global financial crisis? But under President Obama, people have gone back to work and the job rate has plummeted from 10% to 7.8%. So what's your message to Governor Romney regarding the job rate?
Well, the only thing I can say to that, I'm going to jump to the abortion question after I quickly answer this question. As a pastor, I'm against abortion. Because as I said, as a pastor, even condom, wearing a condom, is a form of abortion. Because the Bible deals with that. Because the Bible, sex was created by God for procreation. You see what I'm saying? So therefore, if we make it a spiritual thing, then therefore we can sit. Anybody who can call me, you know what, we can debate on that. But the thing is, you know what, we talking about jobs now. The billionaire, they're the one holding the job creation, because they say that, you know, they're holding a cash chest of $4 trillion. They're waiting after the election. They're waiting. They want to nominate Mitt Romney for president. So therefore, they won't release the money for job creation. I'll tell you, I work I do payables, and I'm telling people are holding their money. They don't want to pay it. They just want to hold. They don't want even like now in Massachusetts, when you go around, you see building under construction. But the thing is, you know what, they are constructing a building, but nobody's dishing out the money. Okay. You see what I'm saying? So therefore, the money is out there. But the thing is, they're waiting after the election what's going to happen. Like Bill Clinton says, believe it or not, whoever wins, there's going to be 17 million jobs created right after the election.
Thank you, Pastor Aubourg. Curtis?
On the jobs issue, I believe that the nation, as we're seeing, is on an upscale. You know, we're now seeing jobs coming back, the industry's changing. We're seeing the stock market at high levels where people in the stock market are not complaining about the investments that they're making. We're finding, again, I think it's a iPad, it's about $1,607 of stock value to own a piece of stock. So we know that there's value in the industry. The challenge for us is at two levels. One is that if I look at the black unemployment, in 2007 we were about 15.1%. We recently had a drop to about 13%. The issue thing is that for me, it's about the cavalry. The cavalry's not coming. So we need to understand that we have to create our own businesses. We have to be about the business of making decisions that are relating to us achieving new goals and making new values for ourselves. It is not going to be the system. It is not going to be the banks, where the banks are in a credit tightening. They've had that credit tightening in relationship to the Obama administration and tightening up on regulations, and knowing that through the processes that we dealt with, and you always hear about the efforts by different businesses to control the market, it deals with the lobbyists, it deals with a lot of factors that we're not privileged to. But what I was hoping that I would hear, and no one has discussed, is who is the 23 million people Romney keeps talking about. Doing some research, we're talking about the underemployed, we're talking about persons that have come out the criminal justice system, and that's why there's so many people that aren't able to get jobs because of the criminal justice laws, as well as there's persons that aren't being educated. We're not educating our children to the point that they can read and that they're doing the right things to compete. We're competing against a global economy now, and we're still dealing with it as a local economy where we're not producing the skill levels to compete. Manufacturing jobs have left. We're now in a situation where the country is about technology. And unless we get back into the jobs, we know, you said it, Pastor, where we're seeing jobs go up in the city of Boston. I was talking to contractors and builders, and again, the same argument from 30 years ago. We cannot find quality employees. So it is still the unions. It is still the same processes that we've been going through. And it's incumbent upon us, each and every one of us, to own businesses, create opportunity, and get people back to work. We have to stop fighting amongst each other, combine our talents, and create our businesses so that we can compete.
Thank you, Curtis. Governor Romney wants to get rid of social programs such as Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and education, just to name a few. What's your take on that in a nutshell, Pastor Herold?
Well, the thing is, they need to be there. They need to be there, because if they cut those programs, our kids don't benefit from them. And then you have so many. You know, I do foster parenting, and when these kids come from school, they need an after-school program when you cannot take them anywhere. And if you cut this program, and you know what you're going to do, and especially the elderly. is very important for the elderly, not only for our kids, but only for the elderly. How about the servicemen that come from Iraq, Afghanistan? They need all these things. I believe that in a nutshell, we need them. They cannot be cut.
Thank you, Pastor Herold. Curtis?
Just quickly, the education we know is critical. If we're going to compete in the future, again, a global economy, we need to be ready and prepared. So our education is critical. What President Obama has talked about is training, getting people into the green economy, knowing that we can create new avenues of education as well as new types of industries. The Medicare issue is an important one that we know that keeps people whole and that allows for families that are struggling and people as described, the senior citizens, the persons who have served this country, as well as those with the disabilities. It allows them to survive in America. They're not living large, they're surviving, and it makes a difference.
Thank you, gentlemen. Are there any final thoughts, starting with you, Pastor
Well,
Herold?
you know what? I'm the type of person in every situation that we are going through, there is a message. You got to ask God, what's going on? And from the election that's going on right now, there is a message behind that. You know, sometimes you feel like singing Sweet, Sweet, Low, Sweet Chariot, because it seems to me that we are going back, way, way, way back. And I believe that in this hour we're living right now, we need to kind of be careful, because you know what, right, you know, in New York, somebody said for the election, they're telling people, employees, if you don't vote, you won't get a job.
Okay,
So
thank you, Pastor Herold. Curtis, thank you for sharing.
Again, thank you, and it's been a pleasure to be on the show with you. And my closing comment is everyone please vote.
That's
Thank
right.
you.
That's right.
Okay, in closing, I strongly believe that the top 2% of Americans should be taxed as they were during the Eisenhower, Kennedy, Johnson, Nixon, and Ford administrations. Because in essence, they're currently paying 15% on capital gains and dividends, and if they are not taxed at a higher rate, the American people will pay more taxes, fees, costs, and interest on the national debt, thus creating a permanent class of lords and peasants. Well, I sincerely hope that this information will clearly help you to decide on whom to vote for, and just follow your instincts. It's a no-brainer. So as we close, well, thank you for watching. May God bless America, and good night, everyone.